Hey guys, okay, so I'm back with another DIY project I wanted to share. Wanted to put this out there. It's just kind of another idea of something else to do with the t-shirt to jazz it up and make it a little bit more fun. I'm going to get right into it and just kind of go through the things that you will need for this project. It's pretty simple. Obviously, a t-shirt. Any old shirt will do, an old one, a new one, whatever you want to do. You can go to the thrift shop. I scored at Hot Topic. A lot of their graphic shirts are on clearance, plus you get an additional 50% off. I think I got like 4 shirts for like 20 bucks. So yeah, you can go there and check them out. And the other thing that you will need, obviously for this, well not obviously, but for this project, you will need lace. Just plain old lace, you know, it doesn't have to be fancy, expensive stuff. This stuff was like $5 a yard. I bought a yard. You could probably get away with using half a yard. I bought a lot of extra because I figured I would use it in future projects too. So yeah, so there's that. The only other things you will need are pretty much the basics. A pair of like sharp fabric scissors and needle and thread and some straight pins. And lastly, tailor's chalk. I definitely recommend having some of this if you're like me and you like to do things sometimes on the fly or without patterns. This stuff comes in handy. So it's basically a crayon, if you will, or a pencil that you can use on fabric, and it will basically wash right off when you're done. So that's it, and let's get into this project. Alright guys, start with your t-shirt, lay it on a flat surface, make sure you get all the wrinkles out of it. You want the back facing you, so the actual front of the shirt is down here, and I'm actually looking at the back of the shirt. The next thing I did was I marked out, went to the collar and marked out 2 inches right here. So you want to go about 2 inches or so and mark it with some tailor's chalk, and I just went ahead and marked that point, and then I went to the other side and measured out 2 inches there as well and marked that. I have the marks for the 2 inches on each side of the collar. You want to decide on what shape you want to do as your cutout. You could basically do a straight long rectangle if you wanted to. You could go out and do it like a diamond or a triangle, but for me I'm gonna kind of do almost the shape of like kind of like an oval, but a little bit more pointy, almost like an eye, if you will. You're gonna need some tailor's chalk. This stuff, you know, you can basically draw on the material where you want to cut out. So what I did, once I took my points, my 2 points that I marked, I basically went and kind of just drew out the shape that I want to do. And at first I did it real light, and then I just kind of went over it and got it a little bit darker, or a little bit lighter in this case, so that I can see exactly where I'm going to cut. And this stuff will just wash right out of the material once you pop it in the wash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up my collar here, and I have my little point where I marked it. Basically, you're just going to pinch the material a little bit and give it a quick little snip. So that'll be my starting point. Now I can go ahead and put the scissors through and actually start cutting along the line that I marked out with chalk. Just go slow. Try to keep it as like even as you want. If you do long cuts, it won't be so like jagged edges. Go all the way down to the point where you want to stop at. Then what you're going to do is you're going to basically come back up to the top and carefully cut right under the collar, all the way to the point that you measured out earlier. So those are my 2 points, and I cut it all the way over. All right, next step is to actually open up the shirt, the part that you cut. And what you're going to want to do is go down the bottom and kind of just fold it over. Since you're not really using a pattern at this point, and you want the shape to be even on both sides, you're basically going to use the part that you cut as your pattern. So you kind of just fold her over, make sure this corner is meeting with this corner over here, make sure they match up, and you're going to want to move her around and make sure it actually gets nice and flat. And there you go. So what you're going to do next basically is cut along the opposite side and use the piece of material as your marking point, or basically your pattern. So you're going to want to cut around the edges of that. Okay, so now you can see where I've made my cutout on both sides. You can kind of see the shape and everything. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the lace that I picked out, and I matched the color to my shirt basically, but you don't have to. It's your choice. I'm going to lay it basically on top of the shirt. You want to make sure that the lace is as long as your shirt is, and plus maybe an inch or two. So I'm going to just kind of lay it on top, and I'm going to make that part go up just an inch or two past the actual collar. So lay it out, keep it nice and flat again. And make sure it goes all the way to the bottom and it's nice and flat. So now you want to consider the shape that you want to do. What I'm going to do is kind of basically just a straight down line. Like so. And when I get down to the point where my actual cutout ends, I think I'm going to kind of just slowly flare out just a little bit from the rectangle shape, like so. And I'm only going to do that one side, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut out the lace down the line that I just marked. Okay, so you can see where I basically just cut along my line. And now for this next part, you want to make sure that those marks that you marked with the chalk earlier line up. So I folded this over and I made sure the bottom part, or the point, is actually right about where I marked it. And my 2 points up here are lined up good too. So now what I'm going to do is the fold over method again, since I'm not using patterns, and I'm marking that point, and I'm just kind of basically folding the lace over and getting this bottom part and folding it over as well. Keep that line nice and straight, keep the material as flat as you can get it. If your lace likes to pucker up a little bit, just kind of pin it down, so that'll keep it from moving and that'll make it easier for you to cut and keep straight. Alright, for the next step, now you can kind of see the project is coming together. Basically cut out my lace piece, and I'm just going to fold it over there and grab a couple of straight pins, and I'm going to go to the top where the collar's at, fold over the lace and pin it down onto the collar. With just a couple of straight pins. I'm going to go down to the bottom and pull this up just a little bit, make sure you guys can see it. Going down to the bottom, and I'm going to basically do the same thing. Flip up the lace here for a minute, make sure I'm only getting the back part of the material, and I'm going to basically fold the lace over so that it's flat. Take a couple of straight pins again and pin only the back side to the lace. Okay, the next step I took, I turned the shirt inside out so you could kind of see the front of the shirt here, you can see the lace, and basically you can see the parts where I've pinned it down. Now you're going to want to thread a needle and thread and get ready to start sewing. So I have my thread here and I have my needle. And basically you just run the thread through the eye of the needle, basically the hole, like so. And you're going to want to pull about maybe 15 inches or so of thread off, and basically you're going to take your scissors and cut the thread. And you take the two ends like so, and basically all you're going to do is tie a knot at the end. And you want to do this a couple of times so that there's a good knot. That way the thread won't just like slide right through the material. This is probably the most common way that I do my projects, or you know, anytime I need to sew, this is usually what I do. And you want to make sure you get a good little knot on the end right there so that it will not come off or come apart. So that's that, and that's basically the end of that, and at the other end will be your actual needle. So there you go, you threaded a needle. Here you're going to want to jump over to the bottom of the shirt, and since it is inside out, the part with the knot will be on this side, so it will not show. So I'm going to go ahead and just go to the edge of my lace and make sure that I only get the back of the shirt. You don't want to go through both sides. Pull the needle through. Sewing it, I've already ran it through the one time. Now I'm going to flip over the material, and I'm going to go back through almost right where I came in. And just kind of pull the thread. Make sure you don't get the thread like caught on anything or knotted. This thread likes to knot a lot. I don't know why. So anyways, pull it through, and you're going to want to go over a little bit, you know, it's not even a whole inch, it's like less than half an inch. That's as far as I'm going. Since this is lace, I'm not really going to worry too much about it. So pull it through, push it through on this side. Whoops, totally got caught. And jump over a little bit more, pull it through, go back through where you came in, and you want to match your thread to your shirt and your lace, that way nobody will see it. Alright, I've gone ahead and sewed all the way down to the end of the lace, and what you're going to do with the thread that is remaining at the end, you basically take the two pieces and you kind of just tie a knot. That's all you're doing, and you're going to want to do that a couple of times so that you get a good size knot and it won't come unraveled on you. So that's all I'm doing. Alright, so now I'm jumping up to the collar. I still have it pinned here, and I've gone ahead and tied off another thread and needle, so that's ready to go. And I'm going to start sewing this part. Basically. And come right back through. Right away. Going through. Jump over a little bit, push it through.